invent those solutions. To me and to us, it is part of the power that we hope to really see from the India AI Summit, but we are far from getting there yet.
And of course, there are dangers.
And how is this going to impact children? But if we're not paying attention...
This is a big moment for children. A third of the population of the world are children. And they, more than anybody else, will have to face AI for large parts of their life. Now, are children all over the world prepared for it?
The short is no. It's a new technology, and it's a revolutionary technology. And it's technology that is advancing faster, further, than we, as a society, can really comprehend. I would posit to you that you and I don't understand how far this is going and how much it is going to affect our lives. Children are like all of us, with one key difference. They are more curious by nature. They haven't yet been culled from that curiosity, natural curiosity. So when they do have access to AI tools, they tend to look for ways for these to be helpful to them. So I would say that for those children who are connected and have access to technology, they certainly are getting into it in so many ways. Access to knowledge, understanding how to cheat in classrooms, understanding how for them, AI to do their homework instead of them, understanding how to write a great poem, invent a song. They're doing all kinds of things with AI. Do they fully understand how much that could impact on their brain plasticity, impact on how much they might very quickly become too reliant on this technology? Do they understand how much, when they think of an AI companion, that could isolate them from the rest of the world? All of these elements, they probably don't fully understand them.
So it's still work in progress, is what you're saying. And there are obviously clear benefits for children all over the world. The question is, are people all over the world, are children all over the world going to benefit equally from it? Yes, in the first world, naturally, you would expect so. But in the third world, people in India, children in India, are they going to get the benefits of AI in the future?
That is partly what we are trying to work so hard on, right? You're absolutely right. So nowadays, about 90% of AI models and solutions have been imagined, crafted, conceptualized by people living in what you call the first world, 10%, which holds about 10% of the population, which means that by and large, those models, those solutions, they're not working, they're not fit for purpose for rural children in India. And that is partly why we are so happy to be here at the India-hosted AI Summit, because also that is partly what India is really pushing for, is a, I would say, rejuvenation or awakening to the power of AI across the world, and really trying to be forward-leaning and championing what should be cross-learning across countries, trying to understand if a solution is built for Telangana, does it work in Tanzania and vice versa, so that those countries that are really inventing, trying to understand how that works in rural contexts for children with disabilities, for children with health issues, how does that function, and can I learn from you rather than having to reinvent those solutions? To me and to us, it is part of the power that we hope to really see from the India AI Summit, but we are far from getting there yet.
And of course, there are dangers. And for small children, and you alluded to one or two of them, there are serious dangers of AI. Now, one can be a Luddite and say it's all bad, but one can pick and choose and realize that, well, this can benefit not just people, but especially children in the future. But what are the dangers?
You're absolutely right. So I'm responsible for innovation in UNICEF, and maybe the simplest way to say that is, it is a revolutionary technology. The question is it going to be a magic bullet for children's outcomes, or is it just going to be a bullet for societies? Are we going to shoot ourselves in the foot or in the head with this? And we could go either way, because very much similar to social media, this is a technology that came to us as a world maybe some 20 years ago. We did not really take the time to try and understand how is this going to impact children and adults and young people. And I would assume that, like myself, you yourself read a lot less today. I assume that, like myself, you are struggling a little bit more to concentrate for a longer period of time just because of that new technology. And we need to really understand how AI will impact in so many functions and sectors of our society. This is going to, no doubt, revolutionize access to knowledge, access to skills, access to healthcare, who gives healthcare, how does education look like in the future, how do we access social welfare. But if we're not paying attention, it could also mean that children's brain plasticity might be affected. It could potentially mean that children will not want to engage with the world because they'll be very happy to work with an AI model that is kind to them, understand them, is always constructive, is always patient, never lose their calm. And so there are fantastic opportunities for learning outcomes in the world, for access to healthcare. Fantastic. And we believe that, and that's part of what we want to really unearth. There are also significant risks. We need to look at this as a societal issue and as a deeply revolutionizing both ways societal issues, and we need to govern it as such.
Yes, you mentioned all of that, and there are already historical examples. I mean, if you look at 2001, A Space Odyssey, you have HAL, the computer.
Precisely. We've had already examples of children who've committed suicides because they were prompted by their AI model to say, yes, maybe you should do that. And of course, those are the exception. Let's just be honest. This is, there are, I can't remember, but there's probably a billion plus users of AI models these days. This is not frequent, but the risk is very much there. And we need to acknowledge it, and then we need to establish guardrails. And this is part of what UNICEF is pushing in this AI summit, to ideally have a statement in the Global Leaders Declaration at the end of the summit, which in essence says, from now on, children must be at the center of any AI governance solutions and any AI solutions, any AI policy, any AI sectoral strategy. Children must be at the center of that. We must acknowledge their rights, protect their rights. Second, those solutions, policies, governance frameworks, they need to be safety by design. So that means, what does that mean? It means that children's data must be protected. It means that we need to have guardrails against abuse of information, child online, inappropriate access to images, bullying, sexual abuse and exploitation, etc. But also data transfers, data use, all of this. We need to have redress mechanism whenever something bad happens. There needs to be some accountability framework. And finally, the last piece that we're hoping to really push is children should not be just consumers, seen and perceived as consumers, but they should be seen as creators, as shapers of those solutions and those governance. So they need to have a seat at the table. They need to have a voice. They need to have the ability to say, oh, well, we've built that AI solution for my school, but actually I don't think it really works well for me, or these are the risks that I see. And we need to have feedback loops built in. And so that's part of what we are hoping to see. Our belief is that if we can get that in the Global Leaders Declaration in a country like India, that declaration will hopefully then guide any future global AI summit, any future governance, because this is happening in India. We have 30 heads of government. We have, I lost track, I think 50 ministers coming from the world around. We have all the leaders in the private sector, partners, the global tech leaders and all of this. If we get that right, we are beginning to pave the way for what should be a risk-informed, risk-managed, appropriate management of AI.
Yes, you're right. And you mentioned Telangana. Now, how does it look for India? How does it look for the children of India?
So I don't want to speak on India's behalf because I've just arrived and I don't pretend to know it very well. I do know that a number of the UNICEF government partners, whether it is education or healthcare or social protection, are very keen to understand how do I use that, if I give you an example in education, to really accelerate learning outcomes for children at primary, middle school and secondary level. And that is part of the role we are hoping to play, is helping those partners who are interested maybe collaborate with us and understand, okay, what solutions are we trying together? How do we establish those guardrails that I was describing? How do we monitor whether that impact that we were hoping to see is realized? And how do we monitor whether the potential impact on children's brains, plasticity or whatever, is also potentially realized? And then get those learnings as cross-crossing, or we call that South-South nowadays, so that when India builds those pathways into the education use case, then we can reach out and say to Rhonda, hey, we have this example in India that is quite powerful. This is what went well. This is what really went not so well. Can we learn around this? And that is part of what we really hope to see happening. My understanding is that there's a number of sectoral lead ministers and Secretary of State that are very, very keen to really drill into this. And part of what really appreciate is that they all are saying from the get-go what UNICEF is trying to, I would say, insist on or frame, which is those guardrails, those ethics, those safety by design, those inclusion by default. We are fully in agreement with this, and we want to see it work. We want to see it work not just for children in Delhi, but we want to see it work for children in rural Tarraganda, and we want to really work this out with you and understand where we fail or where we succeed, and then build that at scale.